natural numbers are what?
Counting numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, counting numbers. And you can use in to represent natural numbers. Whole numbers are what?
0, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, include 0. Dot, dot, dot. You can use a W to represent them. What came after whole numbers?
Integers.
Integers. Which include what?
Negatives.
It does include positives too. It's all the whole numbers and all the opposites of the whole numbers. So that one you can use a Z to represent.
He's a liberal.
Okay. And then after that, rationals. Rationals can be written as A over B, where A and B are integers. But B cannot equal 0 because you can't divide by 0. So that could be like -7/2 or 3/4 or 0.7 or 3.2 or 0.5 repeat. Any repeating decimal. So it can look like a lot of things, but or just a whole number because you can put that over 1. Anyway, rationals are almost everything. Everything above this line is rational, including integers and whole numbers and natural. And Q is rational. And if it's not rational, it's called irrational. And there's just a few. They're infinite non-repeating decimals, such as pi. That's the most common, most popular one. Lots of square roots are irrational. And that one was called Q prime, because it's not Q, the complement of Q. Alright. Yeah, so a number, I'm not doing 36, but you guys are. So on 36, they want you to list all the ones that it applies to. So it's not the most specific set, it's every set that it fits in. So like square root of 9, for example. Square root of 9. No, because what's square root of 9 turned into? 3. So that would fit in what? It would fit in natural? Yes. Whole numbers, integers, and rationals. All the above. Everything except for irrational. Okay, on 37 it says state the property illustrated. I believe this was on page 78. Remember those orange boxes?
Oh, yeah.
Well, they're on page 78 and 79. Okay, so using page 78 or 79, ACE, what do we got here? 35. ACE says 7 times 1 equals 7. Yeah. So what property is that illustrating?
Identity.
Yeah, you gotta be a little more specific. When you multiply by 1, it always stays the same. That's called, it keeps the same identity. So it's called the identity property of multiplication. You gotta be a little more specific. Let's abbreviate property of multiplication. So that's on, the orange box on page 78. B says 6 plus 9 equals 9 plus 6. That's what property? Illustrating what property?
Symmetric.
No.
What? Commutative.
Yeah, commutative property. That kind of is the symmetric, but that's not what they wanted. Commutative property of addition. Doesn't matter if you add those two numbers in different orders. Commutative property of addition. C says 3 times 4. I'm not going to write this one down. It doesn't matter if you multiply the first two or the last two first. If you're multiplying a bunch of numbers, what's that property called?
Multiplication
No. That's when you multiply both sides of an equation by the same value to like eliminate.
Associative.
Yeah, it's called the associative
Multiplication.
property of multiplication. There's an addition version of that as well. Okay, 8x plus negative 8x equals 0. What's that called when opposites always add up to 0?
Inverse.
Inverse property of,
Addition.
yeah.
So will we have to have these memorized for the
No.
test?
Good.
I'll be more specific tomorrow. Like, for example, you should know,
Transitivity.
yeah, transitive property. What was I trying to think of? Yeah, I'll be more specific tomorrow. Inverse property of addition. Test is property.
That's with your right hand.
Oh, we're done. Okay. 39. So, I think 38 is on page 12. If you guys remember way back at page 12. But the rest of them, 39 is no. So we're supposed to name the definition, postulate, or property. 39 basically says these two segments are congruent, therefore their lengths are equal. What's that called?
Definition of congruent segment.
Good job. Yeah, that's what it means for segments to be congruent. That means their lengths are equal. Definition of congruent segments. Are you guys processing this or just writing it down?
Yes.
Helps if you process for later. Why is the definition of congruent segments? Congruent segments means their lengths are equal. Okay, 41. This one's like in the, I'll just tell you, but it's in the orange box on page 79, like right next to 78. What are the three equivalence relationships? So there's reflexive, that was like A equals A. There was symmetric, if A equals B, then B equals A. And there was everybody's favorite, transitive.
Trans people.
Or, yeah. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, 43. Now, if you struggle with algebra, this is where things get
Oh,
long.
no. I bet. You know what?
Did you say nar?
You know what? I bet algebra was created by liberals.
Amen.
Yeah, probably. They are taking over the government.
Amen, brother. Amen.
For real.
Taking away our freedom of speech.
You know, if somebody,
One
like,
word at a time.
Watch this on YouTube, they'd be like, man, those Oklahomans are idiots.
Nah, I mean, they're not wrong. It's the world trying to cover up the fact that liberals are in control secretly.
I'm an American, so I
You're
can
gonna
see.
get more subscribers after
I
this.
said Oklahoman, right?
Or lose a few, maybe.
So I've like grown up in Oklahoma, and I'm like that, so I can assure you,
Okay.
that all Oklahomans are stupid.
Except
What?
for liberals.
Yeah, we're stupid. I admit that I'm stupid.
Okay. On 43, what do we know about those two angles?
They're equal.
They're equal, and they're called what? This is one of those that you need to have memorized.
Symmetric. Vertical.
Vertical. Okay, this is definitely one you need to have in your brain. Vertical angles are always good. But you need to remember the vertical angles.
That could be on the test.
Could be. I'm not 100% sure, but I do want you to know that one because it will be in the rest of the year. So if they're equal, then what should we write then?
That.
Oh, 4x plus 9 equals 6x minus 7.
There you go.
Yeah.
Amen, sister.
All right. So you're related, I guess.
That would be so bad.
Excuse me? You know, you're more sounding like a liberal. I don't know if I can be related to you.
All right. You're wrong. Take it down a notch. All right. What do we do when there's x's on both sides?
Subtract.
Subtract. We want to get rid of the x's on one side, so let's subtract 4x. That goes away. We get 9.
Oh, we know.
So
One of my favorite days from fighting.
you need to work on your. I can be an Oklahoman and not have a good Southern accent, Jaden.
My grandma has like
He calls you
the best Southern accent. It's like she has like my aunt has like a really like harsh Southern accent, but my grandma has like a soft Southern.
Southern girl.
And even like when she goes to other places, people are like,
They're not all the
"That's
same.
great Southern."
Yeah, they're not all the same.
Thank you.
Okay, so you guys remember there's like A, B, and C on it. So the first one is always like what's the variable equal? X is 8. The second one,
You should put that one on the test. It's not too bad.
well, there will probably be a couple, one or two, like 42 through 44.
You should put this exact problem on the test.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
B is angle GKJ. Which one is angle GKJ? The one on the right. The one that says that. So how do we figure out what it is?
Plug in eggs.
Plug 8 in for x. 6 times 8 is 48 minus 7, 41 degrees. What do you think they're going to ask next?
What the other angle is.
Well, what would the angle on the left have to be?
The same.
Same thing. Is that what they asked?
No.
No, they didn't. They asked angle FKG, the top angle. So if this angle on the right is 41, how do we figure out that angle?
You subtract it.
180.
Right. These two should add up to 180 because they're a linear pair. We haven't talked about that word in a long time. So 180 minus this,
Would be 130.
139.
139.
Something Bruce did.
Yeah, we're talking about the measurement of the angles, so it's degrees. All right, how are we going to set up 44? Is it the same thing?
No, you're gonna do 13x minus 3 plus 5x plus 3 equals 20.
Right. Those two are not equal to each other. They don't even look equal. But we do know they have to add up to 180 because they make a straight angle.
No, it's chuches.
Huh?
They don't have a word for facts in Spanish, but chuches is anything.
Like
So you can
truth,
just say
maybe?
chuches.
Liberal word.
It means what?
She said it like it could be anything, like it's used for anything. That's why it was her favorite word.
Chuches.
Oh, you want to say something? Roman says that sounds like a liberal word.
You ever staple your paper to your hand?
Okay, 45. If m is the midpoint of xy. So on these, you probably want to remember, start by drawing the picture, figure out what they're talking about. M is the midpoint of xy. So if m is the midpoint, then what do we know? xm equals my, right? Okay, then it says xm is 39. So find XY. So how would we find XY? 39 times 2, 39 plus 39.
78.
Wait, I kind of changed the assignment a little bit, guys.
What?
I don't know if you noticed.
I did.
It took 2 problems out.
I mean, I'm not mad about that.
You're not mad. But I'm adding 5 more. How do you feel about that?
Oh, well.
Dang it.
Okay, I'm just kidding. All right, 47 says write the proof for. So you guys remember when we started the proofs thing, we started with algebra? That's what this is. I'm just copying what they wrote. All right. So on the algebra ones, they said if this is true. So this is like our given part. This is what we're assuming is true. Then this must be true. So this is what we're trying to prove, this part. When we're setting up a proof, what do I need to put for our headings?
Statements.
Statements.
Reasons.
Oh, no, not these.
Oh, it's this thing. I got that first line of reasons.
All right, what always goes on the first line?
What they gave us.
The given, which is this part, if this, we're assuming that's true. So 2. And once we get to this, then we're done. Okay, if you guys were solving this, what would you do next?
Distribute.
Distribute property, so that would be, okay, what's the reason?
Distribute property.
Distributive property. What goes up must come down. Now what would you do?
Subtract 10.
Subtract 10 on both sides, right? So that would go away. You get 2x equals minus 10, negative 16. What's that called?
No, it's still addition.
The book called it the addition property of equality. If you put subtraction on the homework, I wouldn't have gave you credit for it, but I don't know if you noticed, but addition property of equality, because it's subtracting 10, the same thing as adding negative 10. So it's still kind of like addition. Addition property of equality.
Division property.
Okay, then you divide by 2, so we get x equals negative 8. They didn't call it the division property of equality, they call it multiplication property of equality because it's like multiplying by 1/2. How do we know we're done?
Because x equals negative 3.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to prove.
Hooray.
We did it. He did it. He did it. Yeah.
Okay, let's jump to 50. Let's look at 50. I'm not going to do this one, but I'll help you. So on line 1, this is kind of like missing parts of proofs. It says angle XYZ and ZYW are adjacent. So what would that look like? Angle XYZ and ZYW are adjacent. It look like that, right? Then on line 2 it says blank because the angle addition postulate. What do you think the angle addition postulate would tell us on this one? No, angle addition postulate.
That X, Y, Z, or that X, Y, Z plus X, Y, W equals X, Y, W, or Z,
But-
Z, Y, W equals X, Y, W.
Yeah. So you kind of got it right eventually.
X.
This angle plus this angle equals the big angle. So that's angle addition postulate.
You should use the letters D, J, P next time. Donald J. Trump.
Amen.
You already got it right using the colors red and white. My favorite colors, the colors of the American flag.
What about blue?
Nah, I cut that out of there. We don't associate with blue. Blue is wrong.
Blue and red do not mix.
Dude, nah.
Purple is just non-existent.
So
It's
you're
for school
telling-
colors.
So you're telling me that this, the color for the school doesn't exist?
Correct.
Okay.
The color on your water bottle.
Ooh, not real.
Not real.
It's just a darker
It
red.
ain't real.
All right. On 51, line 2 says angle R is congruent to angle S because all right angles are congruent. What must we have known on the previous line to say that?
That
Yay,
those
um,
angles are right angles.
Right. We would have had to know that those two angles are right angles to use that line. So angle R and angle S are right angles.
No. No, the angels. No, I do that all the time. I don't even wanna do anything. Angels.
Okay, 53. Okay, I'm gonna draw a picture to help us figure this one out too. It says AB bisects, segment AB bisects segment CD. You guys remember segment bisector?
Oh, yeah, that's.
Okay, segment AB maybe looks something like this. Bisect segment CD at point P. So if that's true, you guys know what we can say about point P?
It's the midpoint.
It's gotta be the midpoint.
Wait.
Okay, they gave you a hint. Well, they said definition of segment bisect. That's how we know. It's gotta go through the midpoint, but P is the midpoint. That's the thing. Whitley's on a streak.
And then the test goes around.
He'll be clueless. Yeah, segment bisectors have to go through the midpoint. You hate them.
I'm going to find the person